Wade Russell, blame it on him, go back to the dial age. And Kent Summerlot, well, Kent Summerlot come home with a go-kart. He said, here, you need to get racing go-karts or whatever. This was 1991. We were up in Wade Russell's up by where their cemetery is now or whatever, kind of a drive. And Wade had a pasture there and he had a track made where we rode around. So I put Jay on it, he runs around, he's really flying. Wade gets on it and he goes out and rears around for a while. And my son gets back out and gets on it and rears around. He said, this thing won't turn. I said, what? He said, it won't turn like it did last time. So right away I knew I was gonna get feedback from that kid and he was gonna be good. Looked down, the frame was broke. And that's why she wouldn't turn. But that's kind of where it got started. First race I went to, I run into the grandson of Al Unser at Kalmar Speedway. I don't know if everybody knows where Kalmar in Iowa, northeast Iowa. Well, Kalmar kind of comes back to me or whatever. I thought I was going to run my first race and broke my leg. So he said, leave the driver to him or whatever. So that's what I did. And I broke my leg in '94 racing at Kalmar, Iowa. And gave it up after that. I was on crutches for 6 months or whatever and still feel it to this day. But anyway, getting into Jay's racing career, that's when we kind of got started in late '91. And we did race a nationals. The first nationals we went to in Columbus Junction, Iowa was 2-cycle nationals. I think he got third down there that year. And so '93, we had 2-cycle and we ran 4-cycle and 2-cycle. Usually there were 100cc Yamahas and 5-horse Briggs that were completely stock, but you ran them on alcohol. So through that career or whatever, we went to Forest City, Iowa in '93, and the 2-cycle nationals were in Forest City, Iowa. He won, and how it works is, how they line you up is you run 2 heats, and they invert on the 2 heats, and then they line up for a feature or whatever, and that's how it comes up. So you run 2 heats, and then you line up according to that. And he won the 2-cycle nationals in Forest City, Iowa. The next day, we turned around and took off and went to Phoenix, Arizona, and drove all night, all day or whatever to make it to Phoenix, Arizona for the 4-cycle nationals. And so they had what the classes were, light and heavies on 4-cycles. And in this was in a junior, he was 13 at the time. So he had a restrictor plate in a 4-cycle motors or whatever. Ran the first one, he was on the pole, set on the pole for the feature. First lap, he got spun out. So the next day, and then he worked his way back up in that race or whatever after going to the tail and coming back. The next day it was heavy or whatever, and I think he started 5th in the feature or whatever that one. Worked his way up, passing on the outside of everybody, and won that nationals for. So he's in '73 when he was 13, he won 4-cycle and 2-cycle. So that was kind of the start of it. And then when you're 16, you can run the adult classes. So our first adult nationals we went to, I think he won 9 nationals as a junior. And then each year there's a monthly magazine that they put out, and how that works. And then they put a motor guide or whatever for all the rules. And they have listed all experts. If you won 2 nationals, you're a listed expert in that certain class, whether it's speedway, pavement, speedway, dirt. Sprint is where you turn right and left, and we mainly just ran speedway, which is in ovals, and we ran pavement and dirt. So IKF is this here, and this was his very first national championship. And I was in Forest City, Iowa in the junior class or whatever. So that was IKF He has won 21 of these in different classes throughout the year. His last race was like in '95, and we started racing. And throughout the deal, kart, they have, and this is kind of a Midwest deal or whatever, but it's for everybody. But it started in the Midwest. So this here is Carters of America Racing Triad. So he's won 15 of these national championships. And then we started running some WK, and that's the World Karting Association. And we only ran that for like 2 or 3 years, I think it was. And he won 10 of those throughout the nation. So we went from around Iowa, but all the nationals are located all over. So we went from Hanford, California to Poughkeepsie, New York, and right here's this is a picture when it was juniors. That's us in New York. It's right outside of New York City. Poughkeepsie is, and he won that there. So they give you what this is called a Duffy. So that, and then the winners get a belt buckles and all kinds of stuff or whatever. So you get a mechanic's belt buckle. So got a lot of belt buckles for. So like, you know, he's got 46 and I got 46 mechanic belt buckles. So this here is one from a picture from the Tulsa shootout. This here is in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where they have a indoor building at the fairgrounds. It's 17 acres under one building with no beams, just up on the sides. And this here picture right here is kind of the indoors, and this is the upper level, and then they make a quarter-mile track down below. They put dirt over the steps and you go down in. They put a quarter-mile track down the lower level. They have big fans to suck out the smoke after each race or whatever. And we went down there in '94 as a junior, and he won the first time there. And that's always the first of the year. And I think this here is from, it's a Blue Wazoom or whatever class. It's a hopped up 4-cycle, 5-horse Briggs or whatever. And he's won at Tulsa, Oklahoma 3 times or whatever at the shootout or whatever. The week after, they have the Chili Bowl where they have the midgets come in and run the same track or whatever. So through his career, like I said, 46 Grand National Championships or whatever, and we have about 1,000 trophies that I've tried to give away. So all of the Cub Scout deals we've given away for years or whatever, trying to, but. And the thing of it is, they don't want to give trophy. A lot of the trophies are like this or whatever, so we've got a lot of trophies still in the house or whatever. Quite a career or whatever with and like I said, it's been from coast to coast. And we met the Petties, met the Foyts, met the Unsers. Was at the Unsers' house. My wife actually went and stayed with the Unsers at their in Albuquerque. So met a lot of people over the years or whatever. So
I got to watch Jay race. It was cool.
So what did he do that was special or whatever? How come he was winning everything here? Was it his mechanic or what was it?
I'm not going to say that, but I'm going to say I put a lot of work behind it. I like to win, and he did too, so it's just a lot of hard work. And like I said, when we go to these nationals or whatever, we try to run, like I said, in the junior classes, we could only run 2 at each national, light and heavy. So, like I said, the one nationals I went to, his first 2-cycle nationals in the adult class, we won 3 of the 4 classes that we're in. The one that we didn't win, he got taken out and we lost a chain, so didn't get qualified. Some of these classes were as big as 200 competitors in the class, narrowed down to, most of them got narrowed down to 20 that only get in the main.
And the adults, like how old could they could be as old as they
You
want
know,
to be?
once you turn 40,
Yeah.
you could run what they called the old timers class or whatever, so he had to be at least 40 years old.
I mean, he was racing against people that were like
he raced
30 or 20 or
yeah,
whatever.
exactly. A lot of his, like I said, when he was 16, when he won the 3 classes or whatever, a lot of people didn't like to get beat by a 16-year-old kid, and they were adults, you know, like I said, up to a lot of them 18, 20, 25 or whatever. And he raced until he was 25. He got married the next year and that kind of ended. So
See?
from 13 to 25, he won 46 national championships. So.
It's incredible.
He should be in some kind of Hall of Fame then or something. shouldn't he?
And actually, he is in the National Hall of Fame or whatever. And in these magazines, I was telling you about the manual or whatever, where they tell you the rules for the motors and stuff. They have the listed experts, and once you don't run the class anymore, you become a National Hall of Famer or whatever. So he's in every WK, IKF, and CART National Hall of Fame. So.
Wow.
And the thing of it is, people thought it cost a lot of money, but he was so good that we had people that gave us the chassis and the motors all the time. So after his junior years, so his adult years, we had manufacturers that would give us a lot of stuff, especially the motors and the chassis would be a big. But the tires about breaking, because that was a big thing, putting tires on all the time. So I had like 200 tires in my trailer at all times. Had to have the right tires on.
So the motors though, were they just, I mean, like you said, Briggs and Stratton?
Like an adult Briggs with no restrictor or whatever, or anything like that, a 5-horse. The guy that did our motors for us, he'd have actually a dyno that he'd put them on, and they'd come up 11 and a half horse out of a 5-horse
Oh, really?
Briggs
Wow.
motor, yeah. And there was only certain things you could do, like a lot of it was you had to have the stock screws in the carburetor, you gotta have the stock rods in it and stuff like that. You could plane the head and you could bore the carburetor, throat of the carburetor. And those were about the biggest things you could do. They were on methanol, so you actually had to feed it more fuel so you could bore out the jets or whatever. So, but to get 11 and a half horse out of a 5-horse motor.
Yeah.
And they when we first started, no mufflers on the Briggs or whatever, there was just a straight pipe or whatever. But eventually they said you had to put mufflers on them or whatever, probably for the noise ordinances around.
So how fast is your riding lawnmower go?
It's stock. And here's another thing, we did race Hawkeye Downs too, at the half mile down there. We run it on the quarter mile too, but he was radared on the half mile at Hawkeye Downs, 95 miles an hour. On a
Wow.
cart like this, a 5-horse Briggs, stock Briggs, 95 miles an hour.
You're right, by the
So,
Wasn't Mandy scared when she saw him going around the track? that
she
fast?
wouldn't go to the races.
Oh, okay.
You know, he had a few accidents over the years, but not like I did right away, so. Anything else? So yeah, we got a lot of trophies sitting around the house.